Hello and welcome to episode 59 of Prose. This week, go to a very intimate place with someone suffering with some body issues, and see how Telo is faring in Jack Lee's Ants of Fire, The Legend of Telo. Since I've only gotten a little bit of feedback on this new practice, this episode is still being presented in one piece. As I've told you a few times over now, I'm experimenting with this long format at the behest of several of you listeners, and, believe it or not, a potential advertiser or two. Let me know what you think about this instead of my usual format, which was invented because of listener requests as well. You can do this by chatting with me through social media or emailing the show directly at prosepodcast@gmail.com. Before I go, let me remind all of you that if you've not yet followed the show on social media, please do so on any and all platforms under the name @prosepodcast. The best way to really help the show, though, is leaving a rating or review on iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, or any other podcast service. Ratings and reviews are what help others find our little podcasting family. For easiest access to the show, subscribe using iTunes/Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, or whatever podcast catcher is your favorite. Thank you so much for listening. Let's get to the tale, shall we? This week, we have Dear Diary, or Destructive Tendencies, by Elizabeth Peterson, and Jack Lee's Ants of Fire, The Legend of Telo, parts 27 and 28, The Other, and Rejection. Enjoy. Dear Diary, or Destructive Tendencies, by Elizabeth Peterson.
January 12th, 2014. Today, I googled the number of calories in a rice cake. A single cake of puffed rice. It's 60 if you're wondering. If you get the Lundberg organic ones, it's only 35 if you buy the store brand ones, but they won't fill you up as well. Is something wrong with me? I can't stop thinking about food. Ever since I stepped on a scale and saw 135, that beautiful 135, I have become obsessed with maintaining it. I'm not hungry, but when I am hungry, I'll exercise. It helps the cravings go away. I wonder if food will ever taste good again. It's called a thigh gap. That's what I have now. My legs are thin enough that when I put my feet together, I have a space between my thighs. It has to be healthy because I'm happy, right? It's also better when you run. Less friction, no chafing, better exercise. Perfect. Must maintain thigh gap at all costs. I'm mostly muscle, except when I'm more skeleton than muscle. I can see my ribs now. My collarbone is more prominent as well. I can't tell if I'm stronger and have more muscle, or if I'm thin enough that my muscles show up better. I hope it's the former. I want to be healthy. Clothes fit me better. I can wear things I never even considered as options before. I said I was a size 8 to 10 at the store the other week, and Monique laughed at me. I think she's right. I fit into that size 4 dress. Size 4! I haven't been this size since middle school. I didn't appreciate it in middle school. I can appreciate it now. I wore heavy snow boots to the doctor's last week. Is that weird? She said my weight was healthy, and I wanted to tell her that my shoes added at least 5 to 10 pounds, but she wouldn't have listened, so I didn't say anything. At least, I think that's why I didn't say anything. I think this is better. This has to be better. I can't take a bad picture, and I am loving it. You should have seen me last year, always stretching my neck in photos so you couldn't see my chin, and making sure I was always on the left side of a photo so no one would notice my bad side. I don't have a bad side now. Is that vain of me? That's probably vain of me. You don't care, you're just a journal. It's nice for my self-esteem, though. I like that I actually like myself. At least, I like what I look like. I like that I can run fast. I like that I can fit into sample-sized dresses. I like that my mom doesn't make remarks about my weight. I don't look like me, but I look good. That counts for something, right? February 5th, 2014. Something is wrong with me. It's been a month, and I can't stop thinking about food. I was sitting in seminar thinking about what I was going to have for lunch and how many calories I ate for breakfast. Normal words come out of my mouth when I speak. I can maintain conversation about Greek and Roman myths, and I can wax philosophical about Odysseus's journey. But my mind is elsewhere. The thought of food is consuming me. I broke down crying the other day. I don't cry. It was about a class mostly, but maybe it wasn't. The class was too hard and I decided to drop it. I hate admitting defeat like that. I hate that I can't control my thoughts. If I can't make myself stop thinking about food, what am I? Aren't we supposed to be masters of our mind? I'm losing it. I need to get a grip. Maybe it would be different if I meant to do it, if I meant to lose weight. Now I can't stop obsessing over how to stay thin. I keep thinking that I can't go back to my old habits because I'll just gain the weight right back. It's been so long I can't remember what my old habits were. I used to eat bread with every meal, bread with butter. Even the thought of butter makes me shudder now. I swore off dairy half a year ago when my skin started breaking out, and I stopped eating bread and sugar. I don't know if I can ever eat bread and butter normally again. Maybe I should talk to someone, but what would I say? Society wants me to be thin. Magazines and movies want me to be thin. This is a good thing. I'm doing the right thing by keeping up running and eating smaller portions and more vegetables. All of the magazines say so. I know because I've read all the magazines. It's not a diet. I'm eating 3 meals a day. I know I need to eat 3 meals a day. I heated up a full carton of frozen broccoli for dinner last night, and I was full for hours. Broccoli, 31 calories per serving. I think I have a problem. February 20th, 2014. They said I needed to gain weight, but I don't know how to do that. I went to the doctor again after I wrote last, and I wore normal shoes this time. My weight was at an all-time low. I was thrilled and terrified, and I knew that was a turning point. The doctor noticed. I need to make a change. My friends told me they were worried about me. I think that made me worry more. I am blissfully thankful that they care and concerned that they noticed. My acquaintances keep saying I look good, though, and I think that's part of the problem. Heck, my ex-boyfriend even tried to get back together with me. I literally almost ran into him when I was leaving a concert earlier. There he was, standing outside the library, cigarette in hand, casually asking me what I'm up to later. Getting my life back in order, that's what I'm up to later. I brushed by him and headed back to my dorm. I'm working with a nutritionist now, and a therapist. I'm not sure the therapist is helping, or the nutritionist. I've been trying. Food is making me sick. I've been eating bigger meals, stuffing my face with way too much peanut butter, and way too many bagels. I have added cupcakes back into my diet. I missed cupcakes. I wish my stomach didn't hate them so much. They told me to stop working out, which may be getting my metabolism back to normal, but is not helping my stress levels. I haven't been able to fall asleep because I haven't been running during the day. When I do have downtime, I can't work out. I'm just stuck in my food-obsessed thoughts. I've been trying to gain weight back for the past 2 weeks, but my body isn't having it. I actually lost another pound when I stepped on a scale last week. I am scared and frustrated, and I am mad at my scale and mad at the way my stomach bulges when I eat a big meal. This is the most contrary thing I've ever had to do. Gain weight? Why would someone ever do that? Intentionally? Getting to eat as much as you want and not exercise sounds like the American dream, to be honest. Why am I so miserable? Nobody has said this to me. Not my doctor, not my therapist, not my nutritionist. I think I'm depressed. I wish I didn't know the calorie count of every food I put into my body. 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, 188 calories. June 20th, 2014. I'm in the clear. I've gained back enough weight that my doctor and my friends aren't worried, and I'm not as frustrated. It took 2 months of me eating as gluttonously as I hope I ever have to in order for me to gain back any weight. Now that I'm back, I've decided that I'm not going to step on a scale for as long as humanly possible. The scale only added to my destructive tendencies. Food doesn't taste normal yet, but I'm getting there. I think I'll be nicer to myself in the meantime. Maybe I'll go on a walk today. I could use some fresh air.
Thank you for listening to Dear Diary or Destructive Tendencies by Elizabeth Peterson. Miss Peterson, as many of you know, has appeared on the show as a voice actor a couple times now. Miss Peterson is an educator, mathematician, and playwright who can be found between New England, Scotland, and Canada. She likes logic and words, and her favorite words are
syzygy, eleemosynary,
and
logodedale.
You can read her theater reviews and thoughts on the world at her website, mathematicalmedievalist.wordpress.com. All noises and musical tracks in the background of this story are from freesound.org. The sounds and musical tracks are being used under CC 0 Universal Public Domain Dedication licenses. After this story, I feel that it's my responsibility to let anyone listening that think that they or a loved one might be suffering from an eating disorder, that there are resources out there to help and support you through those challenges. If you do feel like you or someone close to you might be at risk of or currently living with an eating disorder, you can call 24/7 for eating disorder treatment at the Eating Disorder Hotline at 1-866-551064. Again, 1-866-558-1064. Please do reach out if you need that help. Next up, stick around for the next riveting installment of Ants of Fire, The Legend of Telo, as we march ever closer to the conclusion of our first ever podcasted novel on prose. Ants of the Fire, The Legend of Telo, a novel by Jack Lee. Parts 27 and 28, The Other and Rejection. Part 27, The Other. Telo darted backwards with a start and stared at the ant in horror. "Is this one of the 6? The female ant said. "Yes, the last one as far as we know," the drone said. Who are you?" Telo asked. "I am your sister, the new queen." "The new queen?" "While you were carrying off your egg to safety, I had second thoughts altogether. Rather than facing the elements and facing death, I returned with my egg and pledged allegiance to the king. And rather than destroy me, His Highness adopted me. Now I am royalty. My dreams tell me that I am a hunter, but with the drone's help and guidance, I have learned that I do not have to be just a hunter. I can be something else. I carried no egg, and being a queen is not your purpose. You are not a queen no matter what, he says. Of course you carried an egg. You were one of the 6 with me. How else do you explain your being? My nurse raised me into what I am, and she didn't tell me I was a queen no matter how much she wanted me to be one. Well, I am whatever the king says I am. You could be as well. A traitor? No, the king drone said. You could be as she is. Your only reward for serving your mother is work. You think those workers outside being butchered by my royal guard are slaves? They are serving their purpose, carrying food for our benefactors and for us. They are doing what they would be doing anyway. You robbed them of their language, their weapons, their power. They would serve the queen because they chose to, not because they had to. You think they had a choice? My choice was to live. That is why I'm alive. But if it is a choice you find so appealing, here is yours. You stay with me, living a life of luxury under my rule. You will never, ever have to want or work for anything ever again. Or, since the line is decimated, you could help us rebuild by being its first new member. Or you could die now. I am sure your sister would be willing to do the honors of whatever you choose. Be my sister, the female ant said. It would be nice to have another female to share this with. We could be a family. It's not an accident that you survived on your own out in the sun and returned here to your true home. We can hunt together. Telo thought. She thought about her relationships with other ants to this point in her life. They didn't understand her. They weren't soldiers. They seemed to look down on soldiers. Other ants had the desire to build things, to be part of a colony. They didn't mind constructing mounds or carrying dead bodies and waste outside the colony to keep it clean. They didn't mind caring for the young, doing the queen's bidding. Telo didn't feel any kind of desire to build things. Her only desire was to destroy other creatures. She felt this was her noble calling. Other ants did not understand. She would enjoy having a sister that understood her desires. But along with her desire to kill, she also had the desire to protect. Her mission was never to survey an area and kill things indiscriminately. It was not her place to try to usurp the natural order of things. She kept the balance and safety of the colony by destroying threats. She made all of the building and nurturing of young possible. Without her, predators would swarm the colony and eat the young, or enslave the queen. That's what the king and his benefactors did. Telo looked deep into the king's eyes. She remembered her nurse, how she had been disappointed in how Telo was not a queen. She could not bear the thought of her nurse being disappointed for betraying the queen and the colony. She lowered her head and spoke up in a deep growl that rose up from the pit of her stomach. No. Part 28, Rejection. Telo rushed towards the drone, her pinchers slicing through the air in the hopes of grabbing some part of his kingly body. She almost didn't care if she killed him. As long as she destroyed some part of him, that would be fine. She was intercepted by the other female ant. "So you've decided to die then," the drone said. The female ant leapt onto Telo. Telo rolled over on her back as her nurse had done to her. She stretched her legs into the air and caught the soldier on her belly. The ant's stinger stabbed through the air, trying to meet some part of Telo's body, her pinchers almost reaching Telo's face. Telo summoned all of her strength and shoved her aggressor with her legs, sending the soldier flying through the air and onto her back. Telo leapt through the air and readied her stinger to make a final blow into the ant's exposed underbelly. The ant raised her abdomen and met Telo's stinger with her own, locking their weapons and tangling her legs with Telo's. They locked their mandibles together, dragging and grating the jagged edges of their mouth parts. Their eyes met. "I'm every bit as good as you know. Your tricks may work on other insects and stupid workers, but I'm a hunter too." "I'm not a hunter," Telo said. "I'm a soldier." Telo embraced her enemy and rolled them over to the mound to the center of the room. She shoved the traitor into the mound over and over, trying to break the hunter's body against the dirt and crush her armor. Telo felt specks of dirt begin to drop from the top of the mound. The specks became heavier and fell over the battling ants in large clumps. Telo looked up to see an avalanche of dirt sliding toward them. She began to untangle her legs. She gave the hunter one final shove and darted backwards as the hunter was engulfed in dirt, burying her in a landslide. Telo stood in a battle stance and waited for any signs of movement. Her eyes passed over the dirt, looking for any signs of an antennae or leg to break into sight. She did not detect any signs of motion. Telo turned her attention back towards the drone, who had scampered to the other side of the room. "You," Telo said. "You have the instincts and training to be a good warrior." He stretched out his wings and began to beat them against his body. "But all the training in the world doesn't give you wings." The drone rose to the top of the room and hid himself in an opening high above the door. Telo tried to climb the wall, but the dirt did not allow her feet to get good grip. She slid back down to the ground and thrashed her body against the ground in frustration. She glanced around the room looking for any kind of exit. She wandered to the opening of each tunnel, examining each corridor for some sign or scent that it would lead back to the main room where she had left the attendant and the worker ants. It was unlikely that the attendant and the other workers were still alive, but she had to know for sure. As Telo walked past one of the tunnels, she caught the trail of a scent that she could not recall, but seemed familiar. It had the scent of family, of kin. She walked down the massive tunnel, wondering what she might have to fight on the other side. If the drone sent his soldiers through either or both sides of the tunnel, she would be trapped. Telo knew they wouldn't be willing to take her prisoner this time. The scent grew stronger and stronger as she walked. She felt the scent coursing through her antennae and surrounding her body like she was walking through a morning fog or an evening mist. The inner rage she felt from fighting began to subside, and Telo felt something she had not felt in her entire life. Calm. When she reached the end of the passageway, she saw the large abdomen of a creature writhing and moving. She walked along the length of its body and noticed that the creature had wings. Wings that were bound by some kind of green twine that looked like skinny blades of grass. A prisoner, then. "I know you're there," the creature spoke. As Telo reached the creature's face, she realized who it was. Mother? Thank you for listening to Ants of Fire, The Legend of Telo, Parts 27 and 28, The Other and Rejection. The musical tracks in the background of the story are from freemusicarchive.org. They are being used under CC 01.0 Universal Public Domain Dedication licenses. That does it this week for Prose. Just as a general note, Telo's story is not too much longer. The novel will only have 3 more installments. For those that have followed along all this time and/or those that encourage me to do a long-form novel in the show, thank you for following along on these journeys all together with me. Please join me in 2 weeks' time for another episode of Prose. Though it remains cheesy, I do continue to pray you love those around you, tell them that you do, and embrace this life as it is always, stranger than fiction.